Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Don't forget to smash that like button. Let's get into it. So there's been an explosion of news over the last 24 hours. It's all or nothing with United sometimes, isn't it? Where we have weeks or days of just pure clickbait waffle or, really interesting articles and stuff to sort of get our teeth into. No more interesting than Casemiro. I think that's the biggest news story over the last 24 hours. The fact that he's announced his official, well, don't say retirement. He's officially announced that he is going to be leaving the club at the end of the window or at the end of the season, which puts to bed all the talk and speculation around: do we give him another contract, reduced wages, extending his contract? All of this stuff. But so all to bed, and we can enjoy Casemiro for his, what he is as in terms of, one of the best midfielders of a generation, in terms of holding midfielders, and then just enjoy that for the rest of the season. So I actually don't have an issue with, with the announcement. I think it was actually a nice thing to do, that, to get it out there. The fact he could do a video just shows what his character and his mentality and everything like that, as well. So I don't have an issue with how it was announced. He put on his Instagram: knowing when stages come to an end, knowing when to say goodbye, when you feel that you will be remembered and respected forever. 4 months to give my all for this badge and for our goal. Eternal respect and affection for Man United and its wonderful fans. Forever Red Devil, on his Instagram page, which I thought was a nice touch. And as I mentioned, I think he's been one of, if not the best holding midfielder of a generation for what he's done and what he's won. Yes, we can question the fee, we can question the wages, the suitability, but you cannot question his professionalism, attitude, work rate. A real professional footballer who has gave us his all. Whether his all's been good enough at times, we can obviously question and debate, and that's all you can ask though for players: is attitude, effort, professionalism, work rate, and he ticks every single one of those boxes. I wish him all the best for the last few games of the season, and I hope he absolutely goes out with a bang and we get the best version of Casemiro, and I wish him all the best for the future as well. With that being said, I now have a sneaky suspicion, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments though, but I've got a sneaky feeling that we might start hearing rumours about midfielders that we might be looking for. I've got a funny feeling that we're going to be in the market for midfielders. So let's run through all the latest news there. So Simon Stoners and Nave Soto in the Mail said that while there was a club option to trigger a further year on Casemiro's contract, Casemiro personally requested for United to clarify his future to supporters. By announcing ahead of this weekend's trip to Arsenal, it is believed that both Casemiro's team and United can get a head start on planning for the future, as well as removing ambiguity and speculation around what comes next. United sources have indicated that their decision not to renew his contract was taken long ago, well in advance of this announcement, as is part of their bigger plan to transform their central midfield options come June. So this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. This has been on the agenda for a while. They were just maybe waiting for the right time to do the announcement and leaving it up to Casemiro, which is, for everything that he's done in his career and his, his professionalism and everything like that as well. Like I said, I think it's been a nice thing for them to sort of do, and a nice way for Casemiro to, put it out there, end all the rumours, end the speculation, and then we can just enjoy Casemiro for hopefully at his best. Because if we can get season one Casemiro between now and the end of the season, he is a massive asset for us. And I do think it's the right time as well, because I just don't think he has the athleticism that's required for Premier League football anymore. And that's nothing against his, everything that I've mentioned there, is his attitude, professionalism, everything like that. It's just sometimes, Father Time catches up with everybody, doesn't it? But yeah, I no issues with that. Let me know how you feel actually about Casemiro in the comments below. Let me know, do you think this is the right move, the right time? Give us some thoughts and feelings regarding that. Now, sticking with the Mail and Simon Jones, they said that Casemiro's pending departure comes at a time when United have been prepared for some time for a major midfield overhaul, which could see as many 4 new faces come this summer, with Nottingham Forest's Elliot Anderson and Brighton's Carlos Baleba their 2 top targets. And it goes on to say, as well as Casemiro, there are doubts about the long-term futures of Bruno Fernandes, Manuel Ugarte and Toby Collier at Old Trafford. It did also say in the report that they still haven't replaced Christian Eriksen, but I think that we did. We just moved Bruno into Eriksen's position, but obviously now we're changing shape. Amram's gone. We're playing the 4-2-3-1 or 4-2 out of possession and so on and so forth. Bruno moves up. So I think we're a midfielder light anyway. 4 midfielders in the midfield overhaul. Obviously, we're not going to get, that'll be supplemented with some cheaper, maybe up and coming like a Roscoe type signings. But it's not actually, it depends on obviously Bruno's situation, doesn't it? And we know that there's question marks regarding him and his future. And we've had the report over the last few days around the club wanting to seek clarity before the World Cup, and effectively they want to keep him. I think that might be a bit of saving face. I know some of you mentioned that in the comments as well. That's a great shout around, the club putting the emphasis to say, well, we wanted to keep him, but he wanted to go. He does have the release clause as well. But 4 midfielders, because obviously we need one anyway, in my opinion. I think we needed a midfielder anyway, because we're a midfielder down. Casemiro needs replacing now. So there's 2 minimum of 2 midfielders. Question marks over Ugarte, that's 3. And then if Bruno goes, 4. So yeah, I think it's plausible that whether we would, have time, money, all of that to do all of that, I don't know. But that's, it's going to be interesting anyway to see. And the one thing that will be really interesting to see in the summer actually is how efficient is Ineos and the new hierarchies planning, because we've known about this. We've been talking about midfielders for 6 months now. So how efficient is their planning and their strategy? And that'll be interesting to see in the summer as well. Sticking with the midfield, Sully Talk said that internal talks have already begun taking place to prepare for the summer with or without Carrick. The club are looking at strengthening, likely with 2 midfielders and a left wing discussed. A lot is dependent on the manager situation as well as Champions League football, but names are already being assessed. Christopher Vivel is playing a much more advanced role in these talks now. So Sully Talks, who is connected at the club, saying that the talks have already begun to prepare for the summer, looking to strengthen 2 midfielders and a left wing discussed. I think 2, maybe 3 midfielders and left wing. It seems more plausible now. I did mention this the other day. It does feel more plausible that United are looking at that left wing position as well. We'll go through names and so on and so forth in a second, but I want to stick with the midfield for now. Interestingly, David Ornstein said, I do think it's a potentially heavy summer for coming for Manchester United in terms of recruitment. So David Ornstein, because I'm always skeptical when we hear things like, the buzzwords like mega overhaul and big rebuild, big summer, big spends, and all of the sort of big words that go out there in the media and the narrative. But David Ornstein suggesting that actually could potentially be a heavy summer for United. And when you think about it logically as well, we've got money coming in from Rasmus Højlund, money coming from Marcus Rashford. Joshua Zirkzee could go this month with a loan with an obligation to buy, or an option that becomes an obligation to buy. If not, would probably be sold in the summer. You've got Maguire is either going to save us some money by a reduced contract or his contract entirely gone. Casemiro's £18 million a year, roughly, his wages. Obviously, Rashford's wages gone. Sancho's wages gone. You've got Ugarte and his situation as well. So actually, there's going to be a lot of potential upheaval in the summer, and a potentially way for United to get some money, because of going off of yesterday's video, the finances are a massive concern at the moment. But on the flip side, we do have squad cost ratio rules coming in as well. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So while I am skeptical around hearing these stories, David Ornstein saying it could be a big summer for United, plus the fact when you look at it objectively, yes, we've got a lot of wages off the books with Sancho, Rashford, Casemiro, potentially Maguire. That gives you a lot more wiggle room, plus, a bit of money coming in from Højlund, Rashford, potentially Zirkzee, potentially Ugarte as well, maybe Bruno, big wages, big transfer fee, £57 million release clause, maybe more, depending on if Saudi come in and outbid teams. And, so potentially there could be ways that we can make money. So there is going to be potentially the need for, a big summer, but proof will be in the pudding, because we've heard that talk is cheap. We need to see action, and we've been hearing for far too many years of this big rebuild and big overhaul. And I think we had a quite a big summer last summer in terms of, you look at the player profiles we got out and got in, it was a pretty not in terms of numbers, it was fairly normal for United to bring in 4 players and let a few go. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens regarding that. In terms of money and finances, though, Ben Jacobs said that I expect Man United to spend a fair amount of money in the summer window, but obviously some of that might be offset against outgoings such as Casemiro's wages off the books. Still a consideration over Maguire's future, and there are question marks over Ugarte, Fernandes, and Xerxes as well. So, words talk is good, but action. We need to see action because, as I said, for me personally, I've heard all that before around overhauls and summer rebuilds and all of that. Proof will be in the pudding, but it's plausible that actually, realistically, we are going to need to bring in a lot of players with Casemiro going and so on and so forth. But get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding that. And give us your shouts on the Casemiro, the summer sort of overhaul talk that we've just gone through there. Now, in terms of other options, so ESPN is saying that Manchester United remain interested in Bournemouth's Alex Scott, who is on their midfield shortlist. So again, it's a name that's come up quite often as a potential summer target. We know the usual three in Anderson, Wharton and Baleba. Problem with those: Anderson, competition from Man City. I think Chelsea, Bayern Munich also linked with Anderson. Wharton, potentially Champions League football could be a factor on him. I've heard Liverpool might be interested in him today as well. Baleba feels like one, but other clubs could still come in for Baleba because they might see it as an opportunity to get him at a lower market value than what he was last year with his performances and form this season. Scott would be another one, maybe potentially someone that's a little bit cheaper than your main ones. A lot of that might depend on, one, how many players we need to sign. Secondly, finances, which are a concern going off of the reports from yesterday's video, and then also Champions League, European football. So I think they are lining up, Champions League money targets, non-Champions League money targets. That's, they'd be stupid not to be looking at it objectively like that personally. So maybe Scott comes into play if we don't make Champions League and don't get the money. But give us your shouts on that. Now, one player that was mentioned there in the exits was Bruno. Ben Jacobs said that Man United sources insist they want to keep Bruno Fernandes and he remains part of their long-term plans, but Saudi dealmakers have not given up on signing him this summer. Dialogue remains open despite sources close to the player stressing no decision will be taken until after the World Cup. So Ben Jacobs suggesting that there is still clear Saudi interest in Bruno Fernandes. I do think the club at least want the clarity around what they want to do with Bruno, and they are putting it out there that we do want to keep him for another year. Whether that's to save face, or if he does go in the summer, they could say, well, we didn't want him to go, but he wanted to leave, and putting the emphasis on Bruno wanting to go to stop the negativity that will come along potentially with Bruno going. Although mixed bag, some of you might be okay with Bruno going, which is a fair shout. But let us know what you think in the comments. Now, left wing was the other one that was mentioned by Sully Talk, saying 2 midfielders and a left wing. There's been a report coming out from Sky saying that RB Leipzig's £87 million demand for Yan Diomande is putting clubs off making a bid this month. Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester United are among a number of teams who are monitoring the Ivory Coast winger. Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich are also watching him closely, but it is believed clubs are currently not prepared to make an offer given the asking price is so high. And the reports have always been, though, that RB Leipzig don't want to sell him January anyway. This is always likely to be something. They might even not want to sell him in the summer neither as well, because they are a club that have sorted their finances out and they might just decide to keep him, and like they have done with previous players in the past. But that would potentially be a option. I would put him on the list of potential options for left wing. I think Keenan Yildiz is another name that we've been linked with, and maybe Njai as well from Everton. They seem to be the main names linked for potentially the left wing position, but maybe we'll know more over the next few weeks and months as we start approaching the summer, because I do think it's going to get to that time of year where we've done all the scouting. That's why you hear all the nonsense around United scouting this player and scouting that player and so on and so forth that we've been hearing over the last few months, and I've been bringing to you. Gets to January, and then I think as the summer approaches, that's where we're going to start hearing a lot more around, maybe more solid targets as United narrow down their sort of shopping list. That's how I can see it going. So I'll keep you obviously updated on anything like that there, but let me know what you think regarding that in the comments. Now, if Bruno was to go, there's been a lot of talk regarding Cole Palmer. It's not really going anywhere, although it's like a non-story story, in my opinion, anyway. So firstly, this coming out from the Express, who were sort of mentioning the story that I brought to you yesterday. Cole Palmer is willing to return to Manchester to join Manchester United following suggestions he may be feeling homesick in London, although it's currently is currently on a contract until 2033 at Stamford Bridge. Jesus Christ, that is a that's a minute or two away, isn't it? 2033. Oh my God. What's a ridiculous contract? Was this before, I guess, before they changed the rules around like these stupid contracts that Chelsea were dishing out back in the day? So the Express are now saying that there's a feeling that he is maybe unhappy or unsettled in London, wants to move back to Manchester. He is a Man United fan. Ben Jacobs though said, "I'm not aware of Manchester United trying for Cole Palmer. It's clear he loved living in Manchester, but it's unclear if there has been a turning point in London where he is now unhappy. Chelsea don't want to sell, so it feels like a non-starter, and I'd be surprised if United made a move for another number 10 following in Mbeumo and Cunha signings. I think if Bruno goes, then maybe that frees up a lot of money in terms of wages, and we would get a transfer fee, which would be pure profit as well for Bruno Fernandes. But I don't know how much Chelsea would want for Cole Palmer. So those stories are not really going anywhere. They're floating around in the atmosphere as a possible target. But for the moment, for me, it just feels like speculation. But imagine if United did a madness, though. Imagine if Bruno did go and we went for Cole Palmer. Like, that would be, I know he's got injury problems or had injury problems this season, but he's still, he, in my mind, would be a fantastic player to bring in. And then you bring in Anderson and Baleba in midfield. Like, I'd be here for that. I would be here for that. But I'll keep my ears to the ground for it and bring you any updates if and when they come out. But that's all speculation, future, big summer, let me know what you think regarding that. But what about the here and now? We still need to hopefully, or in my opinion anyway, need to do something for the January transfer window. One of the names heavily linked is Ndidi. So yesterday, Fabrizio Romano said Wilfred Ndidi has been offered to Manchester United. Ndidi would be keen on a return to the Premier League. United are aware of an opportunity, but at this moment, United haven't made any bid or proposal. Ndidi is ready in terms of contract side to accept eventually what could take to go back to the Premier League. At the moment, Ndidi has been offered to United. As of today, still no Manchester United making any sort of progress in the sense of advancing in conversations to sign him. So Fabrizio Romano saying, look, Wilfred Ndidi's been offered to us, but at this moment in time, there's still no offers or anything like that, which contradicts what Ben Jacobs was saying. Ben Jacobs was saying Man United have been the club with the outreach for Wilfred Ndidi rather than being offered the player. So Ben Jacobs is suggesting it's the other way around, where we've reached out to Wilfred Ndidi. And I do think that's an important detail because, if we're going to a player that suggests that actually we want them, if it's the other way around, then maybe not so much. So that becomes a case of who do you believe, which is not really very helpful. There's been another report coming out. Now, I don't know the credibility of this source, a Turkish journalist, saying that Manchester United have received information regarding the terms of Wilfred Ndidi as one of 3 midfield candidates for United. If the club decide on Ndidi, they are considering making a loan offer with a £12 million buy options. So Ben Jacobs did actually say that if there is a loan, like Besiktas don't just want to do a straight loan, they would want some sort of option or obligation to buy because they want to flip him for profit. Basically, they bought him for €7 million because obviously they got relegated with Leicester, and they would want to turn a profit on him. So, which begs the question, he was available for between £7 to £10 million in the summer. Why did we not do that if he's a player that we want to bring in and is somebody, because we're going to buy him in the summer with an option that would suggest that we want him as a squad rotation option going forward. So why did we not move for that in the summer? That I don't know. But yeah, Ndidi name not going anywhere, still being put out there as a plausible option for the here and now and for January. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think regarding that one. And then the final, I'm just going to go through the exit news. So Andy Mitten on Manchester United rejecting loan proposals for Xerxes and Ugarte said that clubs want to cherry pick players for no to little fees. Manchester United are reluctant to do that. If big offers were put in for these players, United would be amenable to discuss it. I think for both of them, their futures aren't looking great at United. So, and again, this links in with the, I still think that potentially, because there's been a report coming out, I think from from Sky Sports and Florian Plettenberg, basically both saying the same thing, which is that Roma and other clubs are still waiting in the wings for United to decide what to do this month for Joshua Zirkzee. Obviously, he's picked up a knock, but is expected to be back before the end of the transfer window. So there is still, the possibility that Zirkzee could go this month. If not, I imagine he'd go in the summer. Ugarte, maybe not so much, or unless we are going to do something with Ugarte and bring in Ndidi on loan. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens regarding that. And then the final story is regarding Mainoo. Fabrizio Romano said Manchester United remain keen to extend the contract and signing a new one with Kobbie Mainoo with different terms and salary. Mainoo is very happy with Michael Carrick and vice versa. If this good relationship with Mainoo and Carrick continues, then Manchester United are prepared to discuss a new contract with Mainoo. United feels his contract is a priority after parting ways with Casemiro. Contract talks will continue between Mainoo and United. United will be in contact with the camp of Mainoo. It's not something to agree today or tomorrow. It's going to take time. So according and Sky and a few other places have all said the same thing as well, that United are now more likely to enter or continue or hopefully finish contract negotiations with Kobbie Mainoo. And I think that's a fair shout as well, especially we're going to, effectively, Casemiro's gone. I think Ugarte is definitely going to go in the summer. Keeping Mainoo, bringing in 2 midfielders probably feels more plausible than the 4 midfielders. However, Bruno Fernandes is uncertainty. Do we then pivot for, I think, maybe more likely to go for a winger if Bruno goes and play Cunha as the 10. But, the Kopama links are floating around in the atmosphere as well. So, could be an interesting summer ahead. We'll wait and see, though, because as I mentioned, hear it all the time, so I am very skeptical when it comes to that. So, but we'll have to just pay attention to it, see what happens. We'll hear more, I'm sure, in the next few weeks and months. And but get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think regarding that. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.